All right, let's finish with this. Greg, I do
Right.
actually want to talk to you about this because it was a story that a lot of people, saw online. It was very emotional. Your son, TJ, just got a heart transplant. I basically every time the videos came up, I had to not watch it because it made me so emotional.
All right, buddy. Here we go. What are we doing? All right, buddy. TJ. TJ.
Obviously, it's been crazy time last few months,
Yep.
for your family. How is he doing? And what has this is a terrible question, but like, what has it been like? I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's been wild. So I mean, since the day he was born, we knew prior to him being born that he was going to be born with a long road to hoe. He was in essence born with only half of a heart. So he literally only had one right ventricle. If left untreated, you die. So he had three open heart surgeries before his second birthday, and in essence, he lived with half of a heart, which is kind of like our play on why we wear these shirts a lot. And he lived with what they call a single ventricle. He had one chamber of his heart, and he lived his life like that. And he was doing really well. Lived a fairly standard quality of life for the most part. Had some restrictions, and then about a little over a month ago, my wife and I just noticed he wasn't himself. He was getting really bogged down. We thought maybe he was just tired. So after a few days, we took him into the hospital, and within hours, he was admitted into the ICU in heart failure. And they said his heart just was no longer able to keep up. It was failing, and there was no reversing it. And we began the process of getting him listed to be a heart transplant recipient. So he was 8 years old. He's still 8 years old. And we started that process. He was listed, and we didn't know how long that process was going to take. We were in the ICU for the entire duration of waiting for the heart. And a big reason we share those videos, and fortunate to be able to talk about it, on a platform like this, is because there's so many people out there who have these stories, right? And they're sitting in their hospital room and they're by themselves and they're alone, and they feel like they're the only one in the world doing this. And we just want to shine a little light that, like, you don't only have to share your great moments, right? Like, you don't only have to share when you're throwing a cool tight end thing with George Kittle and you're having a blast talking shit with you guys. Like, all of us have lives that at times suck, right? Like, shit happens. And this was one of them. So we hunkered down, not knowing how long the process would be, by the grace of God and him being in certain criteria of size and blood type and antibody rejections and liver fail, like all these billion factors that go into this algorithm of qualifying you. We were notified that he would be, after about a little over about 10 days, we were notified that there was a heart match. And on June 4th, TJ underwent an open heart surgery, and he came home on Wednesday. And
Wow.
he's been home now for the weekend. And I mean, we could have a 2-hour talk on just what that process entails, but it's remarkable what he's been through and what these doctors can do. I mean, they literally cut his chest open. They took his heart out, and they flew in on a private jet another heart in a cooler, literally in a cooler of ice, reconnect it, and start it back up.
That's unreal. I mean,
Incredible.
It's wild.
yeah, and it's anyone who's got kids, like I said, tried to watch the video, and I think you don't really understand it until you have a kid of your own, and you're like, you do anything, literally anything, and like to go through that. Fuck, man, it was. I'm just so happy he's good. And what's like? Is he gonna live a somewhat normal life now with his new heart?
They said his immediate life right now, once he recovers, it's about a year process until he's about like done. He's on like serious immunosuppressants so that the body doesn't reject the heart. So like there's no like going out and about. It's almost like he has to live in COVID for like
Yeah.
another year, which is kind of weird that we actually know how to live with him for the time being. But it's about a year process until he can like venture back out into school settings and big groups, and acclimate himself back out into life. But the one downside to getting a heart transplant at such a young age, and typically why they try to prolong having to get it, is the hearts don't last forever. Right now, hearts last like give or take 20 years. So when you're 8, it takes you to 28. as the medicine stands today, you know, and you got to do it again. So that's where things get a little dicey. But, you know, every year their ability to push off rejection, keep your body, you know, in coordination with your heart and, you know, keeping things working gets better and better and better. So we try not to think of that we have to do this again in 20 years. We hope that it's 50 years, 30, whatever it is. And we just are thankful for every day that he's home. You know, like he's home. Right. And we have him, and we're going to love it every day that we have him. And, you know, I'll be honest with you guys, the hardest part to rationalize is like the dual emotions of getting the call that your son's life's going to be saved. Because without this heart, he's not going to be able to live. He was on medicine that was the only reason his heart pumped. You know, hooked up, he would wear like a backpack, and it was all around the clock, and that was what would let his failing heart work, right? But the reality is right now in our stage of medicine, someone else has to have a tragedy to allow them to be able to donate a heart. And it's not just someone who dies. They have to die like in certain ways to make their organs ability to be donated. And it's just a really, really hard, right? You know, at the moment you're having a sense of relief that your day has here, at that very moment in time, someone else somewhere in the country is having like their worst day ever, right?
But,
so it's so hard.
Yeah, but it also is a good reminder that if you're not an organ donor, you know, you should be an organ donor.
Absolutely.
Everyone out there, like, it's a really, really important thing. And it's not, you know, I think there used to be a time when everyone's like, well, they're going to harvest my organs. No, that's not how it works. If something tragically happened to you, you could save someone else's life. And that's like, you get a story like this with TJ, and it's the best, man. It's unreal.
And how about this? We don't know anything about our organ donor. They're not allowed to share any personal information. We don't know the age, the gender, the location, but they donated 7 organs. Wow. So 7 families, you know, you start talking, you know, eyes and, liver and pancreas and kidneys and heart and lungs, you know, 7 lives. So 6 other families like us have their, you know, hypothetically, hopefully everything went well, have their son, daughter, husband, whatever, because of one person.
Yeah, it's a super easy step that everyone can take. Just when you're at the DMV, you just check a box. Yeah, and that's all that it takes. It can be, you know, a world of difference, like you said, for 7 different families. That's incredible. How is he doing? Like mentally, are his spirits up? I imagine that for an 8-year-old, this has got to be, you know, an extremely scary thing. Scary doesn't even really begin to describe it. But how has he handled this, and are his spirits good?
His spirits are awesome. I wish I could show you guys. Like, my wife sent me a picture. I had to take so I brought him home from the hospital Wednesday after being there for a month, brought him home Wednesday, and Thursday had to take my other son to a baseball tournament for the last 3 days in Charleston, South Carolina. So my wife and our parents and all them stayed here with them to take care. And she sent me a video of him like jogging down our driveway, like back to our house. You know, it's mind blowing with how resilient these kids are. I mean, if it was any one of us, we'd be just like pity party, negative, your world sucks. And he hasn't had a bad day. You know, he had like one moment of weakness. The morning we woke him up to take him to surgery, like the day, right? He just broke down and he's like, I don't want a new heart, Dad. I don't want a new heart, Mom. And we're like, that's, you know, they see him say that, right, is tough. The day before he's playing air hockey, right? And we said, but you don't have much of a vote, bud. You have no choice, right? So he's been unbelievable. He's home. He's happy. He wants to go for pizza. He wants to go watch his brother's baseball team practice. You know, we're like, all right, bud, we got time. We'll get there. But he's for everything that he's been through, he's doing awesome.
It is true. Kids are so fucking resilient. I mean, I would sprain my ankle and I'd hand someone my license and be like, go ahead, I'm an organ donor, take it off. I'm happy we did this at the end, though, because I wouldn't have been able to handle the rest. So let's end with this. George, we're taping this on Father's Day. Did you write your dad a 20-page letter for Father's Day like he writes to you?
No, I took him to Miami and I put him on a beach and he swam in the ocean all day.
For 8 hours while you got your tattoo?
No, he came with me to the tattoo, and he just sat there the whole time. He was doing the Tight End U agenda, getting the schedule set out. Like, shout out my dad for being like, he's the G. Him and our marketing guys have gotten the whole thing done. But yeah,
Rubicon Town, they should get a shout out.
Yeah,
Rubicon,
shout out Coors Light.
Peter Kaskin.
That's our guy. But I just put him on the beach for the last 3 days.
Okay.
Been awesome.
All right, so that's good, son. Now he should part of Tight End U, and I don't want to tell you guys how to do it, but it would be great if your dad wrote a specialized letter to every single tight end on their way out the door.
Utilize, like, for each individual person gets their own.
Yes.
It has to happen.
Yes.
If I don't get one, I'm not doing it next year.
Yeah. Be like, listen, I've only known you for I've only known you for 3 days, but I love you like a son, and I really want to see you do the whole thing. Remember that time on Tuesday when we first met?
I felt the connection.